Now, good morning. Going to try and get these councillors dancing in the studio, aren't we, gentlemen?
Yeah, Damien.
You're dancing already. We'll have a party. Dancing on ice. Actually, that'd be a good one to sort out the mayoralities, you know. Have a dance-off. That'd be the right way to do it, isn't it? So we've got Jason Murphy. Good morning, Jason.
Morning, Damien.
From Fianna.
Indeed.
Jody Power, good morning.
Good morning, Damien and Waterford.
Green Party.
Green Party.
And what alliance did we say?
Oh, the Progressive Alliance.
The Progressive Alliance.
Very much so.
Very good. Declan Clune, good morning.
Morning, Damien.
Sinn Fein.
Yes.
We don't have anybody from Fine Gael here this morning. We asked them to come on and a number of them weren't available. But if anybody wants to text in, they certainly can. We're going to be talking about important matters, very, very important matters. We're going to be talking about politics. We are going to be talking about budgets. And we're going to be talking about the way forward for the next 6 months at least. And then we'll see how things pan out for there. So firstly, I want to welcome everybody to the programme. Give out our text and WhatsApp number. It's 083 3333 975. Laura is waiting with bated breath for your phone calls on 051 846 123. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can email Deise today at wrfm.com. You can write us a big long letter. I still have to read out. Somebody sent me a big long handwritten letter, so I have to read out that. I'll probably do it tomorrow. So this morning on the show, we're going to be talking to the gentleman about the intricacies of what's happened in the last 2 weeks. In particular, what happened last Thursday and the fallout then on Friday in terms of how people perceived it. We didn't get a chance to cover this on Friday because we were doing our special outside broadcast with the St Vincent de Paul. That's why we said we'd give it time this morning. So we're going to have a good 20-25 minutes to tease out the main points. Firstly, we have a competition with Mulligan's Pharmacy. I'll give out that in a little while. We're also going to be plugging a lot of events that are taking place regarding charity events. I want to thank everybody that has donated to the St Vincent de Paul appeal over the last few weeks, particularly over the weekend, and also everybody donated to the Lions Club. I was delighted, honoured and thrilled to be the compere at the carol concert, the choir concert in the cathedral on Saturday, and it was a marvellous event. €9,420 raised, a record amount on the one day. Incredible. Fabulous. It really was incredible, yeah. OK, gentlemen, now let's get down to brass tacks. The first thing is a budget has been voted on, has been agreed. Jason Murphy, do you claim credit, Fianna Fáil, Stroke and Fine Gael in terms of getting this budget passed? Are you claiming credit for that?
No. We certainly had a role in it like everyone else. But look, I suppose to bring us back to Thursday night, and indeed a couple of weeks before that, there was 3 budgets presented to the council. There was a manager's drafts budget, which included a 5% rate increase, and that was deemed unacceptable, I think, by all. Mm-hmm. That fell, so we adjourned. We looked at it. We came back last Thursday. Some elements of the Progressive Alliance brought forward a budget which included a 2.5% rates increase across the board. That was deemed unacceptable by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and indeed I think Sinn Fein. So that then fell. So it was up to the members of the council to come up with something that would be acceptable to a majority of the council. Now, I suppose when I say that, I have to say that with a rider, if you like. There was a pact in place, a Progressive Alliance. And
just for the purpose of the listener, the Progressive Alliance Pact was a combination of Labour Party, Greens, Sinn Féin and a number of independents.
Basically, it was all parties except Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. I suppose that's fair enough.
Well, Seamus O'Donnell had left the pact some time ago, so he's an independent. So and he would have traditionally voted close enough with Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, depending on circumstances, and he said that on this programme last week.
That's fair enough. I suppose for the listeners, it's been traditional in the council, and I suppose a little bit more than traditional, that the pact or the ruling arrangement would pass a budget. And you would expect that if a member of that ruling arrangement, in this case the Progressive Alliance, brought forward a budget, that they would have the numbers to carry that budget over the line. And I was a member of a pact for the previous 5 years, and the first thing on the table was that we would all pass a budget. And there'd be rows around that budget, but always you'd pass a budget. Last Thursday, the Progressive Alliance brought forward a budget. Thomas Phelan proposed that budget. Sinn Féin decided that they were going to vote against that budget. So for me, they were then off the table. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and I'm only speaking on behalf of Fianna Fáil here today, we voted against that budget because we felt there was a blanket rates increase of 2.5% across the board that we couldn't support. So the meeting was then adjourned and we had to knock heads together and come up with a solution that would get the support of a majority of the council. That's just a potted history of what happened, I suppose.
Now, I'm going to go to the two gentlemen in a second. Some people say, there were some commentators saying that the meetings went on too long and all that sort of stuff. Now, others have said you had to have long meetings behind the scenes, that it was very, very important that things were sorted out.
That's our job. That's our job as councillors. I mean, I think everyone around this table were willing to stay there 10 hours, 12 hours or 24 hours, whatever it took to pass a budget. Now, having said that, and listeners might know this, if you don't pass a budget, and that's the primary responsibility of councillors, is to pass a balanced budget. If you don't pass a budget on the budget night, or if it's extended, the council is then dissolved and a commissioner is brought in, a civil servant is brought in to run the council. Now, I think everyone in this room, and I include Declan, that did not want to see a civil servant running the council.
Okay. Declan Clune, I'm going to come to you in a second, Jody.
Okay.
Declan Clune, you're a member of Sinn Fein.
Yep.
Tell me about your decision not to vote or to abstain on Thursday night.
Yeah, well, I suppose, Damien, it wasn't an easy decision, to be quite honest. Like I said, from my perspective, and I probably spent the previous 3 weeks, a lot of sleepless nights going through the various options, the different permutations and combinations, and what would be the result on, whatever action I took. So I suppose there was three options. The Progressive Alliance, as it's termed, could have went ahead as one unified group, passed the budget. They may not have passed the budget. The second option would be to get Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael involved and get a budget passed that way. And the third option, as Jason mentioned earlier, was to leave the council fall, leave a commissioner come in from the department, and then you would see a real austerity budget because they would just do whatever they wanted to do. And I felt personally, and again, it's purely a personal decision, that, we were obliged to pass a budget. Now, obviously with the Irish water rates fiasco, it made it very, very difficult. I don't think any of the 32 councillors would want to be in that position. But at the end of the day, I personally felt that we were obliged to pass some kind of a budget for the people of Waterford. If you can use the analogy of a soccer team, a match going on or whatever else, 2 or 3 players from one team get sent off, the team doesn't just then walk off the pitch. You know what I mean? In my view, we were obliged to kind of contribute to some budget to minimise any potential effects, rather than leave maybe the opposing parties get in and, no disrespect, Jason, but, maybe kind of pass something that would suit more their agenda, as opposed to doing something from our perspective that could minimise and maybe just kind of take it easy on the cuts, you know what I mean, that would affect most of the people that we represent.
I appreciate you coming on this morning, because I'd say on a personal level it's a little bit difficult for you, because I know where you're coming from. A lot of people know about your passion for politics and your passion for your party. And yet there are times when the party line may not concur with what the personal feeling is. Were you under pressure by your party colleagues to vote in a certain way last Thursday? Was there a whip in place? And are you now at loggerheads with Sinn Féin?
Well, there was a strict whip in place for both attendance at the meeting and to vote in accordance with the party instructions. Now, again, look, my stance has always been, this isn't about me, it's about the people that I represent, the people that elected me, and in my view, they'll always come first, because I said it openly, and this goes for every party, Greens, Sinn Féin, Labour, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, it's not the party in local elections that elect you. Certainly they help, but it's the work you do on the ground, it's the people you represent.
You're also representing a political party.
Oh, absolutely. But some days you have to make a decision. And like I said, it wasn't a decision I came to lightly. I didn't want to be put in that position. But I felt I had to represent the people that elected me first. And that's basically what kind of finalised my decision.
Are you now at loggerheads with Sinn Féin?
Well, it depends on your definition of loggerheads. I haven't had a whole lot of contact with the party, unfortunately, over the last couple of days or even previous to the budget. But like I said, have you been
ostracised?
That might be a bit strong, but certainly I've had zero contact since the budget from the party, and even in the weeks running up to the budget, I suppose there was very, very minimal contact, maybe with 2 councillors, but that's about it. Nothing with my local organisation or anything,
That sounds like you're being sidelined.
Well, sure, I suppose it's open to interpretation, but like I said, I was kind of stuck to my guns. Like I said, it wasn't an easy decision to make. Again, I did it for, I just can't see the logic in, being in a position where he can influence things, after a long time, in the wilderness to a certain extent, just for an ideological position, which in reality, I don't think it's based in reality. Like, it'd be great if you could go to Dublin, lobby the minister, get some extra money, but in my view, that's not reality. That was never going to happen. So I just felt that, we had an opportunity to do something here, and I think we just gave the opportunity away, being honest about it.
I'm going to come back to both of you in a second. I want to go to Jody Power from the Green Party. Jody, thanks for coming into us this morning.
You're very welcome, Damien.
I know it's your first time in the council chambers, and the last 6 months have been a learning curve for you.
Very much so, yeah.
And the budget negotiations. Can I ask you on a personal level, how do you feel things were handled last week and in the run-up to it?
Well, if you're asking how do I feel about it, if it was done in a commercial field or outside politics, I would imagine it would have been done a lot different. But when you're in politics, and as I realised the other night, you've got to put in long hours because there's personalities, there's different issues from all different. Well, there's 32 of us in the chamber. So with 32 people in there, each with an opinion. And I say we didn't have a whip really on our side because we were more or less an alliance of all the various parties in there. But on the other side, they had their whips all right then. So we really had to get down and really get in there and get into the bull ring and fight the corners that we wanted to get across. So that took a bit of time. It really did.
Were you disappointed that you weren't able, as an alliance, to formulate a budget that would be passed?
Very much so, yeah.
And who do you blame for that?
It's not a question of blame, Damien. It's a question of these are the circumstances that were presented to us at the time. And we look at, I understand Sinn Féin where they're coming from. I really do, because it's a national issue they were trying to do. And unfortunately, Waterford was caught in the meat of the sandwich in their playing whatever they're doing on a national level. But on a personal note, can I just say how much I admire this man here, Declan, for what he's done, standing up for what he believes in. And I believe it'll all come true in the end for him. Okay, and perhaps, but I am very disappointed, though, that Waterford and the Progressive Alliance, the Waterford Council at the time, that we were very much a part of, because it started off so well. We had such a good agreement. We all worked really well together, and it was really tight. And the different personalities in there brought really good stuff to the fore for Waterford. So I'm very disappointed, yeah.
Do you think Sinn Féin were wrong to take the stance they did?
Yes, very much so. They signed on the dotted line, they gave us their word, and they broke that.
Who broke it?
Sinn Féin.
Why? When did they sign on the dotted line?
Well, when we came together and formed the pact.
The deal was that you would pass a budget.
That we would pass 5 budgets, basically, and we'd stick together. And it worked really, really well in the chamber until Irish water debacle, and then Sinn Féin were forced to go a different tact.
In those meetings that you were having behind the scenes with Sinn Féin, again,
yes.
I don't want to go ask you too much about them, but they must have been
anything at all.
They must have been very strong and heated when you're, as a Green Party councillor, saying to Sinn Féin, "Come on, we need to get this done."
No, not at all. You're talking about Thursday night, and what happened?
No, beforehand, the meetings behind the scenes.
No. Behind we have worked very well with Sinn Féin. I think that everybody realises now there's greenwashing happening over the country. Everybody wants to be greener and green, so we're in a nice position, and very much so they're looking to us for let's say leadership in the green issue. So it was never heated arguments or anything like that. No, not at all. No, not at all. Okay. Ever. We worked really, really well together.
I'm going to take a quick few seconds, gentlemen, and we'll come back because I want to give this more time, okay? Now, a lot of texts and comments coming in. I'll just take a few of them. First, Sinn Féin did what they said. They said they wouldn't pass on cuts caused by Fianna Gael, Fianna Fáil, Irish Water. What Sinn Féin has done is give a chance to have mayors, so well done to them. Others giving out about Sinn Féin. Others saying Declan should now join Fianna Fáil. He's definitely on the way out from Sinn Féin. Why did Sinn Féin enter the pact in the first place? They want the power, didn't want to make unpopular decisions. That's in from Michael. Fair play to Declan for standing up for his principles. Another person, so people talking about that. Jason Murphy, what do you think of Declan Clune?
First of all, I think Declan is a very effective councillor, and we've had our differences in the chamber, and Declan will be the first to acknowledge that. But he's a very effective public representative. I do feel sorry for him.
Just go back into the microphone there a little bit.
Sorry, I do feel sorry for him.
You feel sorry for him?
I do. I felt, and I suppose I always listen to council meetings, I look over at people's body language. We all do it. And I felt Declan was under a bit of pressure on Thursday night. I feel he didn't feel comfortable with the Sinn Féin position. And I suppose just to expand on the Sinn Féin position, as I see it, when the meeting was adjourned and Fianna Fáil put out a call for anyone, and indeed Fine Gael, anyone to come into the room, and if anyone wanted to pass a budget or was interested in negotiating to pass a budget, the first people to take up that invitation, in fairness, was Sinn Féin in the form of Conor McGuinness. And when Conor came into that room, the first thing he said is we wouldn't be passing a budget for the next 4 years because of these cuts. So he had set out his stall already that Sinn Féin, as far as he's concerned, were not passing any budget.
And he said that quite categorically on this radio station as well.
And I think he would say the same if he came on here.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is this, and I'm saying this with a Fianna Fáil flag, and a very small, I suppose, Fianna Fáil flag in terms of local government. Local government is different. It has to be different. There have to be a separation between local government and national government, because there's times when, and in the history of this state, let's face it, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael on the whole have been in government. And Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael councillors have passed budgets that we didn't like, and we moaned about what we got from national government. That's par for the course. And in terms of Sinn Féin, I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy from Sinn Féin headquarters on this, because Sinn Féin, in fairness to them, have shared power in the north with the DUP at local level, but wouldn't see eye to eye with them at national level, as in the 6 counties. But down here, they're putting a rod on people's back and say you cannot pass a budget. There have to be room for manoeuvre at local level.
And if they were in power, they might say they'll do a far better job than a lot of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael governments did over the 80 years, that you made a mess of the government and mess of the country for many times.
Yeah, fair enough. But I have to say this, the only place in politics is to be in the tent. And Sinn Féin realised that after many years of struggle in the north. The place to be is in the tent, where that's where you can make the difference. Sinn Féin took the ball last Thursday at 3:10 and left the pitch. They were irrelevant from then on.
What do you think of the Greens?
I have no problem with the Greens. I would hope that...
Can you work with them for the next 4 years?
Fianna Fáil, and that's myself and Fianna Fáil, we'll work with anyone that wants to put a progressive, a compact, a durable alliance in place for the next 4 years, because we need certainty now.
Jody Power, your thoughts on Declan Clune?
Oh, I admire him. I admire him from standing up for his principles. I admire him from putting stuff out on the edge like that.
I know he's blushing here now.
And I just wish him all the best in the future. I think his star is only rising now. I think the situation and the position he's taken shows the honour of the man, and it shows he's put principles beyond orders. So that's what I would
Sorry,
like.
David, could I just say, this isn't about me. There's a bit of a focus on me at the moment. And again, I just want to try and change that focus, because it's not about me, you know what I mean? I understand where you're coming from. I appreciate it. You have a job to do, but I just,
I'll move on straight
Declan,
away.
you made a very intelligent decision, if you don't mind me saying so.
I'll move on straight away. I understand, Declan. I just wanted to get the boys' views about it, because it's very, very important in terms of personalities and people. This is about people as well, and politics, and the combination of both. Who, Jody Power, are you going to work with for the next 3 to 4 years in the council chamber?
Who am I going to work with?
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody. Waterford comes first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the national politics now at the moment. We're in it for the people of Waterford that put us there. The national level, that'll be played out on a higher field, as it were. But we need to put Waterford first. So anybody that puts Waterford first, we're going to be working with them. Yeah.
There is issues regarding standing orders now. I've spoken to people within the council about what's going to happen, mayoralities and all that sort of different things. There are provisions within the Local Government Act about how this will play out. My understanding on it is that councillors wanted to get the budget done first, and then in January you talk about the mayoralities and the different compositions of the SPCs, the committees and all that sort of thing. So we'll wait and see how that plays out. How do you see it playing out, Declan Clune?
Well, I would imagine now that the other members of the council, as in Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the Greens, Labour and Independents, will meet to try and decide something moving on for the future. You have to have some captain of the ship. You have to have some course. We can't just meander along. So I think it's important that there's some stability restored to the council as soon as possible. Whether I'll be part of that or not, I can't say at this moment in time. But, again, look, I wish everyone well, and I hope everything works out for everybody. And particularly, like Jody said, the people of Waterford, they're the ones that should come first. And in my view, that's the people that I represent and will continue to represent.
I think we might be getting Conor McGuinness on the line in a minute. He might want to come into this discussion. Firstly, I'm going to ask you, as a Fianna Fáil person, Jason Murphy, will you be looking at taking the mayoralty from the Progressive Pact within the next 6 months?
Damien, I think Fianna Fáil, we don't really care about mayors. What we do care about...
No, come on.
No, we don't. We don't care about mayors. And this
That's
discussion...
the first time... even Jody's laughing at that.
Well, maybe he is, but we don't care. This is what happened.
You'd love to.
This is what happened 6 months ago, where I think there was a discussion about mayors and positions, but there were no discussions about budgets. Budgets is what's important.
You were furious that you didn't get into power in the council.
I wasn't. I don't think Fianna Fáil were furious. No, I wasn't. I don't care about mayors and chains at all. I haven't a neck for a chain. You know that yourself. But all I would say to you is, what I want is certainty going forward. Certainty to deliver 4 budgets or whatever is left in this council. 4 budgets we have to deliver. We are in the most important time in the history of Waterford, maybe in generations. We have over 300 million investment coming in from Alloc Care. They're looking in on us as well. We want to give them certainty, and the way to give them certainty is to put a controlling interest in power in the council that can deliver 4 budgets. We've already had anarchy. We had it on Thursday where we had to have 10 hours to deliver a budget. We don't need that again.
Anarchy?
No.
That's a bit of an overstatement, is it, Jody?
Very much so.
Well, it's the first time that we had to sit
Let
down.
Jody come in there now. Respond to that, please, Mr. Power.
I thought it was a sensible, intelligent way of going about a business that we were looking for to get a solution at the end. There are very clever people in there, very intelligent people in there, and there's no way we're not going to pass a budget last week, and there's no way we're not going to pass a budget in the next 4 years. There's too much at stake for that. People will not let...
the Progressive Alliance people didn't pass a budget. This is the point. This is the point.
This core budget was Progressive Alliance, to be fair, with a few tweaks from yourself.
It was our budget, and you were surprised. I couldn't get over it. You guys were surprised that we came up with a really, really good budget, and we could see that. We did.
It was a good budget.
It was
and
a
we
very good
acknowledge
budget
that.
for the first time.
But having said that, this budget, and I think Damien will agree, became the rates budget. That's where the negotiation was about. Your budget delivered a 2.5% raise increase across the board. We couldn't accept that. We wanted to protect small and medium enterprise, and we did that. We did that.
Go on, Jody.
Hold on. We were part of that, and I think the chief financial officer in the council left everybody know that, again, that 70% of the businesses in Waterford pay less than 20% of the rates. So it was a very easy thing to go in and put in that. I think Matt Shanahan even voted it on there or proposed it on the night before we came to that agreement. So that's been on the table all along.
Why didn't you propose it then? Why did you propose a 2.5 rates increase across the board if you knew about it? Why did you propose it? Why did you leave it to the opposition, if you like, in the council, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to propose it, which was carried then by a majority? Why did you do that?
Part of the talk that went down behind the scenes is that we came to an amicable agreement about it. And I say we could have done it very, very quickly instead of going on for 4 hours about it, but because it was on the table out there.
We would support if you had excluding small businesses from the 2.5 rate increase. We would have supported it. So why didn't you put that on the table first?
All I can say is,
I don't know.
We've got so many people around the table, and that's what we came with. We came up with.
I think we'll head off, Declan. Let the lads think so. On a serious matter, so what Murphy is saying, says this texter, Murphy, is that Sinn Féin refused to pass cuts on the budget of 14 million. Well done, Sinn Féin. I'm going to talk to Declan Clune briefly for a second. I want to bring Conor McGuinness in a second. Sinn Féin did what they said they were going to do. They did what they said on the tin, that they weren't going to pass a budget which was coming in with government instigated cuts, as they have said it. Mm-hmm. So were Sinn Féin not right with their stance?
Again, it's an ideological position, and in a perfect world, absolutely would be the right thing to do, but unfortunately we're not in a perfect world. The money wasn't just going to fall out of the sky. The minister wasn't going to give any more. He made that perfectly clear. Like I said, the only alternatives were to leave the council fall and have a real proper austerity budget run by an administrator from the department, or else pass some kind of a budget that would leave, I suppose, power with the council to influence whatever savings, cuts, whatever way you want to call it, that would have to be implemented on the council and by default then on the people of Waterford. So look, absolutely, from an ideological point of view, it's absolutely the right thing to do, but I don't think it had any basis in reality.
Put on your headphones there for a second, gentlemen. Councillor McGuinness, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you doing?
Good. I'm sorry. Sorry, I couldn't bring you in. Sorry, I couldn't bring you in sooner. Can I ask you, Councillor Conor McGuinness of Sinn Féin, why haven't any of you been in touch with Declan Clune before now?
Well, in the first instance, I just want to apologise to your listeners, because I'm going to come in here and I'm going to break up the happy party and the backslapping and the congratulatory tone of things. I think this budget has been a retrograde step for Waterford. I think it's a disaster of a budget. We're looking at a rates increase on small and medium enterprises who've told us, we've engaged with them over many, many months, have told us that this is going to hit them, that this is going to hit retail, especially it's going to hit businesses in Dungarvan and West Waterford. There's talk of a rebate scheme, but there's a very unclear legal basis for this. I met with Minister John Paul Phelan earlier this month with other councillors, and he was clear that there's no regulations for this yet. They haven't been drafted, they haven't been signed off, that they're not there. So we're looking at a disaster for local businesses, and we're looking at €600,000 put to the housing budget next year. In 2020, there's going to be €600,000 minimum. Spent on housing.
And we'll deal with that issue in one second. Can you just answer the question I asked you first?
Issue, if I might say.
It is a very important issue. I'd agree with you. And it was
and the people that the councillors in your studio represent as well, Damien.
That's
important to say.
It was the next question that I was going to ask you, and the first question I asked you was on the basis of the conversation we had. Why haven't you been in touch? Have you fallen? Is Declan Clune now being sidelined? And this is not. There's no backslapping going on here, by the way, Conor McGuinness. Is Declan Clune now being sidelined?
Absolutely not, and I'm willing and able to talk to Declan at any time. I have to say I'm disappointed that he abstained in the first vote and wasn't present for the second vote on Thursday night. But as you can appreciate, Thursday night was a very late one. I've been very busy over the weekend and Friday with other meetings, putting together dignity packs for the homeless, and then just catching up with family, the usual stuff that we do in the run into Christmas. So I'm available.
Yeah, but a phone call. You're the leader of Sinn Féin within the council. Do you not think it was incumbent on you to at least contact one of your fellow councillors?
Well, I was sat beside him on Thursday for many, many hours and had several conversations with him. So I mean, I think
Councillor Clune
kind of, and I spoke to Declan before he left the meeting. I don't know, it was around 10 o'clock or so on Thursday evening.
Declan.
Yeah, Damien, look, I'm not prepared to get into tit for tat now, because there's no winners at the end of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. What do you have to say, Jody Power, to what Councillor McGuinness is saying, that it's basically they did the right thing by abstaining, you're wrong on this?
Oh, not at all. I'm in the council now 6 months, and the one thing that I did find in the council is that I really thought there were small little things that we needed to get done, like filling potholes. As Jason was saying, like we have to wait 4 months for plumbers or electricians to go to council houses. Councillor Mulligan was complaining about water was really shabby during the summer and all that. And when I asked for small little things to be like line painting to be done, we can do that in the next year's budget, there was no money in the council to do anything. So I really got the impression that the council needed some money to be able to do something, to function, to put Waterford first, to get out there. Yeah, we needed money.
Councillor Jason Murphy, Fianna Fáil, is Councillor McGuinness not right that these cuts are massive and you shouldn't have gone ahead with a budget?
I don't know what Councillor McGuinness is talking about in relation to cuts to the housing maintenance budget. I actually checked on this morning, because this is something that Sinn Féin have thrown out. It didn't appear on any line in the budget.
Damien, I can help Jason there.
Well, maybe no. Okay. I don't need your help, but I will say this. Conor, I don't need your help.
Just let Jason talk for 1 second. I'll bring you back in a second.
Last year, Waterford City and County Council spent $5,041,000 on housing maintenance. That's the expenditure we spent on housing maintenance. This year, in the projected budget, we're spending $5,058,000 on housing maintenance. So there's actually an increase in housing maintenance. What's that, 18,000? I don't know where the €600,000 cut is coming from. The first we heard of it was when Conor said it in the budget. I've seen it on no line in the budget.
Okay, Councillor McGuinness.
Yeah, if Jason, I'm not sure if he has the budget book in front of him. I realise he's on studio.
I've read it.
So I have it here in front of me, and it's actually there in the preface. No. We're looking at, and I can quote it if you
Jody
want.
Power is saying no.
He's written this himself. He said we have 600,000 over budget in 2019 due to additional housing units coming on stream, and household income increases. So that means that we've got 600,000 extra money into the housing budget, into the housing department in 2019. And I'm quoting here, we would expect a similar level of increase in 2020 without an increase in our core rent.
Conor, you're talking about projected figures. What I'm talking about was actually spent in the housing budget last year and is an increase. You're talking about speculation. I'm talking about facts.
Could I address this? Could I address this issue?
Briefly, thank you.
I hadn't finished. I would have intended, this is the Chief Executive's words, I would have intended that this increased income, 600,000, would be reflected in the housing expenditure side of the budget. But this is not possible given the cuts that we're facing. So I suppose, just to answer Jason's thing, yeah, of course it's a projection. This is still 2019 and we're looking at the 2020 budget. Everything is in the future tense. Everything is a projection. So throwing that line is a bit silly. What I would like to say, Damien, because I understand you're probably going to move on to another topic soon, but I just want to say I bear and harbour no ill will towards Jody or Jason or Declan or anybody. I think that everybody did what they thought was right. I certainly did what I felt was right. I didn't think it was right to roll over and accept these government cuts on the chin. I think it's just important to point out as well, and I mentioned this on Thursday morning with you, Damien, that there was this. The council isn't Cinderella's pumpkin carriage. It wasn't going to dissolve at the stroke of midnight. We would have, had we not passed the budget, which would have been my preference, we would have gone toe-to-toe with the minister, and they, in an election year, with two Fine Gael who have been very quiet, I might add, two Fine Gael candidates on the council, would not have dared to dissolve the council in the run-up to an early general election.
Okay.
It's called negotiating. And I think we could have done more of that, and we could have filled more of this hole, rather than putting the pain once again on the people and the businesses of Waterford City and Town, which is what we've done, unfortunately.
Councillor McGuinness, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Briefly, Declan Clune, any response to that?
No, not a whole lot. It is a strategy. There's no doubt about that. Wasn't a strategy that I was interested in or was prepared to support because, again, I don't take chances. I'm not a gambler. So I just preferred the certainty of trying, as bad as it may or may not be. I thought it was better to have some kind of a budget in place so we could move forward as a council, not kind of bring it up to the last minute and council may or may not have been dissolved. And Conor probably makes a fair point that with election year, it's probably highly unlikely that would have been done. But at the end of the day, I suppose nobody has a crystal ball, and I just thought from the perspective of the people that we represent, we had a budget in front of us from the manager. We didn't like it. We had the opportunity to make changes. There was enough meetings and everything else went on the previous weeks. So I thought it was incumbent on us to do our best and represent the people that we represent and get a budget across the line.
Ultimately, this is about people. A caller has phoned in to say the council budget has been cut to the bone. He booked a boiler service 18 months ago. He's told there's no money there. Council won't be hiring plumbers, electricians, nothing. Totally have to pay for themselves. That's what it's all about. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Jody Power, thanks very much for coming in to us.
Welcome.
Jason Murphy, thanks very much for coming in. Declan Clune, thanks very much for coming in. Happy Christmas to you and your families.
Happy Christmas to you.
Ho, ho, ho. We are back with a lot more. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. Also, if you want to text in Mulligan's Christmas Cracker, text in those 3 words, Mulligan's Christmas Cracker. Our competition lines are now open for a special gift from Mulligan's, and today's Christmas Cracker will be pulling it. Mulligan's 60 years in business, Mulligan's Pharmacy Blue Club, earn and spend points in store and online. Everything you want, mulliganspharmacy.com online as well. In a minute, I'm going to be talking to Gerard Grant about a missing Meccano set, a really good story. Firstly, an interview I did with Karina Foley, who's originally from Waterford, whose son Bryan is a helicopter pilot in New Zealand and was bringing visitors to White Island when the volcano erupted last week. I spoke to her earlier and this is what she had to say.
Oh, good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much.
Fine, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Tell me a little bit about yourself first, please.
My name is Karina Foley and I'm from the Cork Road in Waterford. And I'm living outside Brussels for the last 20-something years. I travel a lot, but I'm based outside Brussels.
Okay.
And I'm married to a Belgian man, and we have a son called Bryan.
And we'll talk about Bryan in a second. Tell me about the family in Ireland first, or tell me about the Cork Road. Any relations still there, or relations in Ireland?
Unfortunately, my mother has passed away the last few years. My father is from Ferrybank, Tom Foley.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Patty Dunphy. I have lots of first cousins in Waterford.
Very good.
And 1 or 2 out in Cremore.
Ah, okay. Well, hello to all of them this morning. And how many years are you in Belgium?
Long enough. I think about 25 years. But as I said, we've moved around a lot. But in total, about 25 years.
And tell me about your son, Bryan.
Okay. Well, Bryan is a helicopter pilot in volcanic air in New Zealand. He was on the strand on the White Island during the eruption last Monday. And he landed his helicopter, and he was after flying 4 German tourists over there. And he did a great job because he spotted the eruption itself. And his first priority was to save his 4 customers and himself, of course. And he told them to run as quickly as possible to the edge of the sea, which they did, because he'd spotted the gas go right up in the air and then slowly come towards them. Not slowly, sorry, very quickly. He only had a few seconds to act. So his instinct was very good. He just told them to follow him to the sea and dive in. So they ran over very rough terrain. I think it was only 150 metres. But they got there anyway, and he told them to dive in. And one couple did. They dived into the water, but the other couple didn't make it on time, unfortunately. And as a result of that, they weren't burnt. Bryan and the couple weren't burnt at all, and he sent them off on the boat then to the big boat outside. So they survived. And the other couple, unfortunately, did burn a little bit, and one of them is critically burnt, but let's hope he pulls through it. Yes, it was very scary, he said. Dreadful, having hot gas coming towards you like that. So it was either jump in or be burnt. And by jumping in, the gas went over their heads in the water, and they came up there, they were fine. So, whereas everybody else, unfortunately, as you know, they've had terrible casualties over there. So it was terrible.
And when you heard, Karina, about the volcano, did Bryan ring you first, or how did you hear about the...
No, not at all. It was quite an event. No, my brother, Philip Foley, from Waterford as well, he's living in Amsterdam, and Philip just texted me and asked, was my son in New Zealand, because he'd only gone over there a few weeks ago. He trained in New Zealand, by the way, with these helicopter pilots when he was younger, but he'd only taken up employment a few weeks over there. So I said, yes, he had, and he said, well, I believe there's been an eruption last night. And I said, you're joking, because I knew that's where he was flying that day with his 4 passengers. So I had to wait then, I think, 2 hours for some news. My husband, who was in Canada at the time, tried to ring the company. He saw it on the news as well. And he saw my son's helicopter, which is on the beach there still. I think you've seen it on the news, that white helicopter. It was like full of ash. His lovely new squirrel helicopter, which was lovely colour blue, is now like on an austere landscape there on the beach. But he'd seen that helicopter on the news, and then he rang the company. And when he got through, then they said, yes, indeed, that Bryan was on the strand there with tourists, and that they didn't know anything. Because in the meantime, my son had been helping put some people back in the little boat. After he had got the tourists onto the big boat, he went back and saved some people there. He helped put the people on the little boat. And so we had to wait to see, I mean, they were very busy. It was a terrible thing that happened over there. They didn't have a clue who had survived and who hadn't. But anyway, he ended up in hospital, and he came back safely on the boat. So then they said, OK, that's Bryan the POW. So they rang us immediately and let us know. They were extremely well organised.
And that's that's your husband's name, DePau, DEPAUW.
W. And exactly.
Can I ask you, Karina, were you before you heard he was safe? What emotions did you feel when you didn't know?
I was terrified. So he's a great young chap, and I thought, I can't believe this is happening, because I knew he was very proud to be there, and he's a good professional helicopter pilot, and I knew this was one of his flights, and that he was flying passengers over there that Sunday. So he was working, as I said, with the Volcanic Air Company. And I knew there was no way that he could have survived this. From what I heard, that something awful had happened over there. And I knew the whole island is a volcano. So I was really frightened. Great relief when my husband rang and said he's alive and well.
He's 25 years of age and...
26.
26.
His birthday, I think, was 2 weeks ago.
And he's obviously a love of flying. And
absolutely. He was in Africa flying there over Victoria Falls for 3 years. So he worked a lot with tourists. He had a lot of experience. Yeah.
And was he or any members of the family involved in a rescue off Helvig before?
Actually, now that you say it, yes, absolutely. I think it was nearly 15 years ago now. We spent every summer in Helvick or in Dunmore East. And Bryan learned to kayak there with the Adventure Centre in Dunmore East. And actually he said to me, the reason he survived this so well is that he wasn't frightened of the water and that he could swim without a problem when he jumped into the water. It's probably due to the fact that he had spent so many summers swimming in the cold Irish Sea. That stood to him for sure.
Yeah.
And years ago we were in Helvick, yes, and a man, I think, was fishing at midnight on the pier there in Helvick Head, and he caught his fishing hook in his knee and he fell in over the pier there and into the black cold water. He just missed the rocks. And my husband ran up the pier, and Bryan and Éanna, his friend from Ring, Éanna Kelly, were there. And he shouted for Éanna to show him the way into the sea. And Éanna showed my husband how to get into the sea. And Bryan and Éanna went off and got the buoy. And they ran back and threw it into my husband. And he swam over and caught hold of the man and held on to him. And then the people called the rescue boat there. And they came over anyway, eventually. And my husband, pushed the man into the water, into the boat. And all was well. And that did cross my mind when I heard this. I thought, there we go again. So I can still see Bryan running for his life that night in Helvick to help out. And that's what he did on Monday. He ran for his life and took those people with him. And when he rang me eventually, I reminded him of that. I said, you're like your father. And my own father, Tom Foley from Ferrybank, I think, saved the man out of the River Sure there in Waterford. Mr. Boland, I think his name was. He used to have the candlelight in Dunmore. So he rescued him when he was a young man. So I said, well, must be in your genes then.
It really is amazing, Karina. It is amazing.
It is amazing. And I'm very, very happy that he's alive and well, and that the tourists that he brought over there are alive and well as well. He behaved very professionally, and he's doing very well now. So,
did he receive any injuries?
None at all. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I think he was one of the only few that had no injury. Perhaps he was the only one. I'm not sure of that yet, because they're still very busy over there, and they're still recovering a lot of bodies, so they're all very busy. And his colleagues were amazing, apparently. They went in and they rescued a lot of survivors. Mark Law was quite a hero over there. He's a big helicopter, and he flew in within 20 minutes and took 12 bodies away. And Bryan's boss, Tim Barrow was his name, and he also flew in with his helicopter and took people back as well. So they were great. They went in directly. They didn't hesitate.
And what's Bryan doing for Christmas? Will you get to see him at all?
I don't know that yet. It's still very new what's happened over there. So hopefully he'll get home. So I know if he does, before he went to New Zealand, he was going to go on a trip over to Ireland for a month to visit all his cousins and relations in Galway as well, Donald Foley in Galway. We'll see now. We'll see what will happen. If he does, he will go over for a few days to have a drive around and relax. That's all. For the moment, he's doing well. That's it, day by day.
Well, Karina, listen, I really appreciate you talking to us, and will you tell Bryan, and we'll send you over a link for the podcast as well, so you can have a listen to it.
Okay, great. Yes, okay.
And that was an interview I did with Karina. Isn't that an amazing story? It really is. Some people texting in, well done to Conor McGuinness. Other people saying, well done to Declan Clune. Others saying no response from Declan regarding McGuinness. Tit for tat. He should have come back and spoke about it. As you heard, Declan wanted to say he'll talk to his Sinn Féin colleagues behind the scenes. On the repairs, Damien, should it not be incumbent on council tenants to carry out some basic repairs themselves? I own my own house and have to pay for everything. 5 million a year on repairs. I wonder what the breakdown of that is. Are the repairs contracted out? If so, would it not be cheaper to employ permanent staff? Alice says she phoned in, I don't get it. When I get a mortgage, then something goes wrong in our house. We don't run to the bank. If you own a council house, you're paying your money to the council like people who are paying a mortgage to the bank. I think it's time for people to start paying for their own repairs. 5 million would buy a nice few houses each year. What do you think? Text us in. Coming up, we're going to have our Christmas cracker winner. Good morning, Wilma.
Damien.
How are you? Wilma Smith from Meadowbrook, is that right?
That's correct, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Wilma. You are our winner today.
Lovely, lovely.
So, courtesy of Mulligan's and Mulligan's Pharmacy. So, we have a nice Christmas cracker competition and a special prize to give away today. So, can you pick a number 1, 3, 5, 6 or 11, please?
Could I go for 3, please?
Number 3, certainly. I'll put number 3 on the computer here. Pick out the little Christmas cracker. There we go, we crack it and comes up, oh, very nice. Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Italian Zest, limited edition, 50 mils, especially for women.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's a nice way to start a Monday morning, isn't it?
Isn't it?
A nice Dolce & Gabbana, especially for women. So you can use that yourself or you can give it away as a special present.
Oh, no, I'll keep it myself.
Lovely, Wilma. Listen, thank you. Does anybody want to say hello to, especially this morning on air?
Yes, to all my family and friends, and hope they all have a nice Christmas.
Well, that's lovely, Wilma. Wilma, to you and your family and everybody related to you, happy Christmas to you and yours.
And the same to you and all the staff at WLR.
Thank you, Wilma.
Thank you very much.
God bless. Happy Christmas. Thank you. That's Wilma Smith there for Meadowbrook in Tramore. She is our winner today. Thank you very much to Mulligan's Pharmacy for the prizes. 12 days of Christmas, and I think we've got a few more prizes to go. We'll have another competition tomorrow. Now, coming up after the 11 o'clock news, we have our special recording from the local Enterprise Office business event that we had last Thursday night. Some really good voices in it, and anybody who's interested in business or setting up business or wants to know about what happens behind the scenes, if you set up an app, for example, you could actually spend €10,000 setting up an app. Is it worth doing? So we're going to be playing that after the 11 o'clock news. So we won't be taking any texts or, well, you can keep sending your texts in because we're going to deal with a lot of the matters we've been dealing with today. Come back with those tomorrow, particularly people talking about the mayorality and who's going to be the next mayors and the whole things with the budget. So stay with us for our special piece on the local Enterprise Office.